In our last episode, we roamed our way through the colonial streets of San Cristobal de las Casas. This time around, we spend another 10 hours on another Mexican bus and make it to the amazing Mayan ruins of Palenque. From San Cristobal de las Casas, it took us a better part of a day to wind our way up and over the jungle-clad mountains and finally land ourselves down in the town of Palenque just in time to catch the tail end of the Cinco de Mayo festivities. And then early the next morning, we were off to see the ruins.
We made it to Palenque!
And after walking up a short trail through the jungle, the ruins start to come into full view. Palenque was a Mayan city-state from roughly 200 BC to about 800 AD. And even though roughly 90% of this city is still unexcavated and covered by jungle, a large portion of the roughly 10% of the city that has been excavated is wide open for us to explore. And it's incredible.
Look at this thing. Did you read about that? Where they just stacked rocks on top of each other? It's a lot of work.
This is kind of amazing. And we can just walk around.
Even though Palenque is smaller than some of the more famous archaeological sites in Central America, it holds some of the finest architecture, and thanks to the inscriptions on many of its monuments, it holds the most detailed written record of the era. And even more than that, there's a lot of stairs.
Ready?
Yep.
There's some tall stairs.
Palenque's heyday, it was in the 7th century under the king Pakal the Great. And even though he came to power at a low point in the city's history, with military victories and alliances with other cities such as Tikal, Palenque flourished like never before. And thanks to Pakal the Great's success, most of the temples and palaces that are visible today were constructed under his rule.
Crazy. It's
kind of a-
amazing. Oh, look
it
at
is.
all the...
The inscriptions. We've been to a lot of places at this point. This is one of the best. And I know I say it every time, but really, this place is crazy cool. One of the best.
And from the top of the palace, there's some pretty great views of the surrounding pyramids nestled in the jungle.
These are sort of a bucket list kind of place for us. Not exactly Palenque, but to see actual Mayan ruins, that's been high on our list for a long time. And we're here. And it's really incredible. And I just can't get over the fact that we can just roam around. Amazing.
Palenque also holds the earliest known aqueduct system in the Americas, feeding pressurized water to the palace.
Hey, Brenda. How's your stairs?
There's a lot of them. I bet people sweated a lot then and now.
If you come here, bring good shoes, be prepared to walk and climb stairs and sweat. Whew. This place is muggy.
Grows out of the tree. These plants grow out of the tree.
Really cool, huh?
Pretty cool. These little roots. Here we go, up some steps to sweat. It's so humid here.
Palenque obviously has some amazing architecture and history, but one of the most amazing things for us was the fact that we could soak in our surroundings and just roam freely. Not only in the city center, but also through some trails in the jungle.
This place is, I think we heard 24 square kilometers, and only about 5 to 10% of it's been excavated. Most of it's still buried in the jungle, which is kind of crazy. Everywhere you look, there's some sort of mound, and if you look a little closer, you can see a structure beneath all the vegetation. It's crazy. The jungle just took it all back. But it had about 1,000 years to do it. From the time the last recorded civilization was here, it's about 800 AD, I think, if I remember right. And the next people who found this place was about 1,000 years later. About 1,000 years to grow.
Other than a small agricultural community living in the area, in roughly 800 AD, Palenque was abandoned, and it was quickly taken over by the jungle. And even though small archaeological expeditions happened in the 17 and 1800s, major work didn't really start until 1949, leaving this place to sit basically untouched for over 1,000 years. With a series of trails winding their way out of the city center of Palenque, it not only gives you a small glimpse into the size of this once thriving city, it also gives you a chance to roam through the jungle and take in its beauty.
There's a huge street.
But throughout Mexico and Central America, there's quite a few pretty famous archaeological sites, some ruins, and probably quite a bit more famous than Palenque. But since Palenque is not very easy to get to, it doesn't seem crowded at all. We're roaming around, and most of the time, we're kind of by ourselves. Hi, Brenda. Yeah, more stairs. Going up. So, there's people here, obviously. But for the most part, it seems like we're by ourselves, just out exploring in the jungle. It's almost like I'm Indiana Jones. And really, I just can't stress enough how amazing this place is. Incredible. And how well preserved it is. It's just, you gotta see it. Come see it! And be prepared for stairs. Stairs everywhere.
You go first.
You go first.
No,
That's
come on.
scary in there.
I always have to go first.
Oh, it's dark.
Smells very earthy in there.
Yeah.
You see anything? Oh. That was funny.
That's not funny at all.
Mm-hmm. Is it cool
There's
down
stairs up
here?
there.
Oh yeah, that means there's another spot. More.
It's blocked off.
Yep.
was scary in there. Okay, we've been here for 4 or 5 hours, maybe 4 hours, and this place is pretty easy to just roam around. But if you want a tour, a little tip: right at the entry where you come into the national park, they're selling tours for, I think there's 1,500 pesos for a Spanish-speaking tour, 2,500 pesos for an English-speaking tour. But if you bypass that, come all the way in, they're only like 150 pesos once you get into the park. But we're not exactly tour people, we just like to roam. So if you're like that and just want to roam around, every single one of these structures that's been excavated has a sign so you can see what's going on. And if you go through some of the rooms, they've even got them too. So it's pretty easy just to roam, which we like to do. Brenda doesn't like to be bossed around by anybody. Yesterday we went to the ruins. We're still in Palenque today. At this point, I still can't get over how amazing those ruins are. If you get a chance, go see it. But today, we're going to a nature preserve. It's supposed to be a bunch of wild animals running around. So we're going to check it out. But beyond that, we've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 days left on our Mexican visas. So we're really trying to cram in as much stuff as we can while we're here. See as much cool stuff as possible. So tomorrow we're hopping on a plane and we're gonna go see Mexico City for a couple of days. Kind of excited about it. Are you excited?
I am.
Mexico City is another kind of a bucket list place for us. So we're pumped. Oh, Brenda got bit. She got bit by a bug.
No, there's a lot of bugs here.
But another thing, I get questions all the time about costs of our travels here in Mexico. It's pretty inexpensive to travel around. We got a pretty amazing hotel over here in the jungle. It's about 10 minutes away from the ruins, and I think it's about 25 bucks a night with breakfast. And it's a pretty good breakfast. So you can kind of do this stuff pretty cheap if you want to. Kind of amazing, really. Mexico City, here we come. Who's pumped?
And that's about it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and join us next time as we roam our way through the sights of Mexico City.